Kindness is one of the most powerful forces on earth. It has the ability to break down walls, soften hearts, and heal wounds. But kindness is not a license for self-destruction. It's not a sign of weakness, and it was never meant to be weaponized against the one who offers it. Yet too many people walk through life giving and giving, pouring out their time, energy, love, support, and forgiveness into people and situations that never give anything back. And when kindness is misused, when it's stretched beyond its intended purpose, it stops becoming a virtue and starts becoming a source of exhaustion. We wear ourselves down trying to make everyone happy, trying to avoid conflict, trying to be the good person in the room, until we are left with nothing for ourselves. That's not kindness. That's slow self-erasure. There's a dangerous idea in our culture that to be kind means to be available to everyone all the time. But the truth is, not everyone deserves access to your kindness. Just like you wouldn't give the keys to your house to a stranger, you shouldn't hand your emotional energy to anyone who asks for it. Time is a currency, and your spirit is sacred real estate. To stop letting people rent space in your heart who don't contribute to your peace. Stop overcommitting and under-resting. Not because you're selfish, but because you're smart. When you're kind to everyone without boundaries, you dilute your power. You become like a candle burning at both ends. Beautiful, yes, but you won't last long. You have to learn the difference between compassion and codependency. Being a good person doesn't mean you have to be a doormat. It doesn't mean you have to say yes to every request, every favor, every text message at 2 a.m. People-pleasing is not a personality trait. It's a survival strategy developed by people who were once made to believe their worth was tied to their ability to keep others comfortable. But it's time to unlearn that. You do not owe anyone your peace of mind. You do not have to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. You can be kind and still say no. You can be kind and still walk away. You can be kind and still demand respect. The most dangerous part about misused kindness is that it's so easy to miss when it turns into self-neglect. You think you're being helpful. You think you're doing the right thing. But then the resentment builds. You start waking up tired, not physically, but spiritually. You start feeling like your kindness is being taken for granted, and you begin to question your worth, not because you're weak, but because you've allowed yourself to stay in spaces that don't honor your spirit. And the longer you stay there, the more you forget who you were before the world taught you to be small, silent, and soft for the sake of others. Not everyone who smiles at you is a friend. Not everyone who calls you kind really values your presence. Some people will only love you when you're convenient for them. Some people only show up when they need something. And some people are experts at manipulating the kind-hearted because they know you'll always give them another chance. But you're not obligated to keep carrying people who keep cutting you. You're not required to sacrifice your growth for someone else's comfort. The wrong people will take your kindness and use it to build their own comfort zone while you stay stuck in yours, slowly withering from a lack of reciprocity. You have a mission in life. You have a calling. You are born with something inside of you that the world needs, but you'll never be able to deliver it if you're constantly distracted by draining relationships and toxic environments. Real kindness doesn't mean staying where you're mistreated. It means refusing to participate in your own exhaustion. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for others is to step back and let them learn how to live without you, so you can learn how to live with yourself. Every time you overextend yourself for people who would never do the same for you, you steal from the future you that needs rest, that needs boundaries, that needs energy for the right opportunities and relationships. You can't fully step into your destiny if you're constantly entangled in other people's dysfunction. You can show up for yourself if you're always showing up for people who won't even meet you halfway. Kindness without wisdom is sabotage. Generosity without boundaries is poison. And love without discernment is heartbreak waiting to happen. There's a reason airplanes tell you to put your oxygen mask on first, because if you pass out trying to help everyone else, you become part of the crisis. The same goes for your emotional and mental health. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't heal others while you're bleeding. It's noble to want to serve, to love, to help, but not at the expense of your own soul. You were not created to fix everyone. You were not created to be the emotional landing pad for people who refuse to grow. You are allowed to choose peace over chaos. You are allowed to walk away from disrespect. You are allowed to be kind and still choose you. There's a quiet power in protecting your peace, in saying, no, I can't do that right now. In saying, I don't have the capacity for this conversation. In saying, I love you, but I need space. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of strength. The strongest people are not the ones who say yes to everything. They're the ones who know when to say no. They're the ones who know how to keep their heart open without leaving it unguarded. They're the ones who can be kind without being consumed. Because real kindness starts with how you treat yourself. If you want to be kind, start by being kind to your boundaries. Start by being kind to your future. Start by being kind to your energy. Start by being kind to your purpose. Stop entertaining everyone just because they want a piece of you. Not everyone is entitled to your time. Not everyone gets a seat at your table. Some people are only meant to witness your growth from a distance, and that's okay. Protect your heart like it's priceless, because it is. Protect your time like it's limited, because it is. And protect your peace like your purpose depends on it, because it does. You don't owe the world unlimited access to your soul. The only person who's going to live every moment of your life is you. So stop living it for other people. Stop bending over backward just to avoid discomfort. Stop shrinking so others can feel tall. This is your life, and you get to choose how you show up in it. Choose strength, choose boundaries, choose wisdom. And never forget, being kind to everyone might look noble, but being kind to yourself. Not everyone deserves access to your energy, your time, or your loyalty. That's a truth that might be hard to swallow, especially for those of us who have been conditioned to believe that love should be unconditional, that loyalty should be unshakable, and that availability is proof of goodness. But the harsh reality is this: giving everyone access to your life is the fastest way to destroy the best parts of yourself. Not everyone has earned the right to sit at your table. Not everyone should be allowed to speak into your life, to influence your decisions, to demand your time. Your energy is currency. Your loyalty is sacred. And your time is one thing you can never get back. When you give those away carelessly, you cheapen your purpose and weaken your path. There are people who will take everything you give and still feel entitled to more. People who will consume your energy like it's theirs to devour, not recognizing the sacrifice behind your giving. They won't care how tired you are. They won't ask how you're doing. They won't wonder what it cost you to show up for them time and time again. Because in their world, you're a resource, not a relationship. And if you don't draw the line, they will keep pushing it. If you don't define your limits, they will decide them for you. They will take your kindness as an invitation, your availability as weakness, and your loyalty as a tool for their convenience. And when you're empty, drained, and done, they'll simply move on to the next person they can pull from. The truth is, access to your life is a privilege, not a right. Let me say that again. A privilege, not a right. And like all privileges, it must be earned. Not everyone deserves to know the depths of your heart. Not everyone should be trusted with your dreams. Some people only show up to spectate, not support. Some people only come close enough to copy, not to contribute. And if you're not careful, you'll find yourself investing in people who are never invested in you. You'll be feeding people who are starving you in return. You'll be showing up for people who wouldn't cross the street for you. That's not loyalty. That's self-neglect in disguise. We have to stop assuming that because someone is close to us, they are for us. Proximity does not equal purpose. Just because someone has been in your life for years doesn't mean they deserve access today. Sometimes people grow apart. Sometimes your elevation exposes their stagnation. And when that happens, you'll feel the tension. You'll sense the subtle resistance, the quiet jealousy, the unspoken resentment. But instead of addressing it, you'll tell yourself it's just in your head. You'll stay loyal to dysfunction because of shared history. You'll ignore the emotional toll because of old memories, but make no mistake. History with someone does not entitle them to a future with you. Loyalty should never be a life sentence. If you're constantly explaining your worth to someone, they're not meant to be in your inner circle. If you have to beg for reciprocity, fight to be understood, or chase down appreciation, you're giving your energy to the wrong people. Your peace should not be up for debate. Your time should not be on a clearance rack, and your loyalty should be reserved for those who don't take it for granted. Real relationships are mutual. Real friendships are safe spaces. Real loyalty doesn't drain you, it strengthens you. You shouldn't feel anxious every time someone texts. You shouldn't have to recover from people who claim to care about you. You were not created to live on empty. You were not created to be a backup plan, a last-minute call, or a second option. You were created with purpose, on purpose. And that means you have to be intentional with your access. Not everyone gets to sit front row. Some people belong in the balcony. Some people belong outside the theater. That's not arrogance, it's discernment. That's not being mean, it's being mature. Because if you let the wrong people too close, they will sabotage your focus, distort your vision, and delay your destiny. They will bring drama where you need clarity. They will create confusion where you need peace. It's time to start filtering who gets your energy. Just because someone is loud doesn't mean they should be heard. Just because someone is persistent doesn't mean they should be trusted. Learn to listen to the patterns, not just the promises. Pay attention to how people treat you when you have nothing to offer. Watch how they react when you set boundaries. Notice how they behave when you're not useful to them. That's where the truth is. And once you see it, don't ignore it. Adjust your access accordingly. Love some people from a distance. Wish them well. But move on. Protect your space like your future depends on it, because it does. You don't need a large circle. You need a solid one. You don't need a lot of people. You need the right people. The kind of people who pour into you like you pour into them. The kind of people who pray for you in private and support you in public. The kind of people who hold you accountable without tearing you down. Those are the people who deserve your energy, your time, and your loyalty. Not the ones who guilt trip you, gaslight you, or drain you. Not the ones who disappear when you're struggling and only reappear when you're shining. Guard your circle like you guard your dream. And let's talk about guilt. Guilt is the master manipulator. It'll have you questioning your boundaries. It'll have you feeling selfish for choosing peace. It'll whisper lies that say, you're a bad person for walking away, but let me set you free today. You are not a bad person for protecting your energy. You are not wrong for choosing your own well-being. You are not obligated to stay connected to people who deplete you. You have the right to change, the right to grow, the right to outgrow people, places, and patterns that no longer align with your purpose. That's not disloyalty. That's evolution. You've got dreams that deserve your best focus. You've got ideas that need your full attention. You've got goals that require your whole heart. But when you spread yourself thin across everyone else's needs, what's left for what God has placed inside of you? Nothing worth building can be built on burnout. No vision can flourish in a life that's constantly depleted. If the well is always dry, the garden dies. And if you don't protect your energy, your purpose will suffer. Not because you're not capable, but because you're not available for what actually matters. You have to become ruthless with your priorities. Not out of cruelty, but out of commitment. If something doesn't align with your vision, it has to go. If someone consistently pulls you off track, you have to reevaluate that connection. Every yes you give is a no to something else. So the question is, what are you saying no to every time you overextend yourself? Are you saying no to rest? No to clarity? No to creativity? No to peace? Because something always pays the price for your misplaced yes. And more often than not, it's the very purpose you're praying to see fulfilled. You weren't designed to do everything. You were designed to do what's yours. And the moment you embrace that truth, everything changes. You start moving with clarity. You start choosing with boldness. You stop apologizing for protecting your time, your energy, your vision. You stop saying yes out of guilt and start saying no out of wisdom. And in that space where your soul is no longer scattered, you start to grow again. You start to rise. You start to build what you were born to build. So today, make the decision to stop overextending. Let go of the pressure to be all things to all people. Silence the guilt that tells you you're being selfish. And remember this, overextension is not love. Burnout is not purpose. You were not created to live drained. You were created to live full, on fire, in alignment, and ready. Kindness is one of the most beautiful and powerful traits a person can carry. It's the ability to show compassion, offer grace, extend love, and reach out a helping hand without expecting anything in return. But while kindness is divine, it can also be dangerous when given without discernment. The truth that most people don't want to talk about is this: not everyone deserves access to your kindness. Not everyone who smiles in your face has your best interest at heart. And when you fail to recognize that, you put yourself at risk, not just emotionally, but spiritually and mentally. Because the wrong people will exploit your kindness, not because they are opportunistic. They see your heart not as something to protect, but as something to use. Some people don't love you, they love what you do for them. They don't value your presence, they value your availability. They don't cherish your heart, they manipulate your empathy. And you'll never see it until you stop assuming everyone has the same intentions as you. The most dangerous people are not the ones who hurt you with hate. They're the ones who hurt you while smiling, while pretending to need you, while taking from you under the disguise of friendship, loyalty, or even love. These are the people who see your kindness as weakness. They test your limits, push your boundaries, and drain your spirits because they know you won't push back. And as long as you continue to confuse kindness with unconditional access, you will continue to bleed for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. At some point, you have to stop giving people the benefit of the doubt at the expense of your own well-being. If someone keeps taking from you but never pours back into you, that's not a relationship, it's a transaction. If someone constantly pulls from your strength but is absent when you're weak, it's not love, it's manipulation. You have to be bold enough to recognize when someone is only around for the benefits, not the bone. Because the longer you allow users to stay, the more they'll take. They won't stop on their own. They won't suddenly feel bad. They'll keep pulling until you have nothing left. You were not created to be drained. You were not created to be used up and discarded. You were created with purpose, with vision, with gifts that are meant to bless the right people, not enable the wrong ones. So if you keep finding yourself exhausted, unappreciated, and overlooked, maybe it's not your kindness that needs to change. Maybe it's your standards. Maybe it's time to stop giving people passes just because they need you. Maybe it's time to start asking what they bring to your life beyond a list of demands. Kindness without boundaries isn't kindness, it's self-sabotage. And let's be honest, some of us keep being kind to people who've already shown us they don't deserve it, not because we're noble, but because we're afraid of confrontation, afraid of being alone, afraid of looking cold or selfish. But the truth is, protecting yourself is not selfish, it's necessary. Wisdom isn't just about knowing who to help. It's also about knowing who to stop. And discernment isn't just about seeing people's needs. It's if someone shows you again and again that they take more than they give, believe them. Don't keep handing out second chances to people who see your grace as permission to mistreat you. Eventually, you have to stop making excuses for bad behavior. You have to stop pretending that loyalty means tolerating disrespect. You have to stop thinking that if you just give a little more, love a little harder, they'll finally appreciate you. No. You cannot heal someone's dysfunction by bleeding for them. You cannot save people who are committed to using you, and you cannot grow while you're constantly being pulled backwards by people who only know how to take. That's why protecting your kindness is so important. Because when it's given to the right people, it multiplies, it strengthens bonds, it builds trust, it creates environments of healing and safety. But when it's given to the wrong people, it becomes a weapon they use against you. They'll gaslight you, they'll guilt trip you, they'll twist your good intentions to serve their selfish motives, and they'll do it all while calling you too sensitive or too emotional if you ever try to push back. That's not love. That's manipulation wearing the mask of relationship. You don't have to harden your heart to protect it, but you do have to guard it. You can still be kind and have boundaries. You can still love deeply and say no. You can still offer grace and remove yourself from toxic environments. Because kindness isn't about being passive, it's about being powerful in your integrity. It's about choosing to stay soft in a world that tries to harden you, but also being wise enough to say, I will not allow my softness to become my downfall. It's time to be selective, time to stop apologizing for drawing lines, time to recognize that just because someone's struggling doesn't mean you're the one assigned to carry them. Some people will play the victim just to keep you on the hook. They'll weaponize their struggle so you feel guilty every time you pull back. But your kindness isn't supposed to be manipulated. It's supposed to be honest. So if someone continually takes advantage of your love, your generosity, your time, it's not on them anymore. It's on you to make a decision. A decision that says, I will no longer water what is killing me. You're not being mean for choosing peace. You're not being rude for choosing yourself. You're not being cruel for refusing to be used. You are simply waking up. Waking up to the truth that kindness is powerful, but only when it is paired with wisdom. Only when it is given from a place of strength, not fear. Only when it flows through boundaries, not around them. So yes, be kind, but don't be naive. Be loving, but don't be blind. Help people, but stop carrying people who refuse to walk on their own. Because if you keep sacrificing yourself for the wrong ones, you'll have nothing left when the right ones come. And that's a tragedy you don't deserve. You owe it to yourself to create an environment that nurtures you, not depletes you. You owe it to your calling to preserve your focus. You owe it to your future to be selective with your connections. Stop granting backstage passes to people who don't even applaud from the audience. Stop watering relationships that leave you thirsty. Stop trying to heal people who have no intention of changing. Your life is too precious. Your calling is too valuable, and your time is too limited. So from this moment forward, make a decision, a strong, unapologetic decision to take back control of your energy. Reclaim your time. Reserve your loyalty for those who truly honor it. You are not being harsh. You are being honest. You are not being cruel. You are being clear. And clarity is power. When you know who you are, you stop entertaining what you're not. When you know your value, you stop offering discount. When you know your purpose, you stop entertaining distractions. Not everyone deserves access to your energy, your time, or your loyalty. And the moment you truly believe that is the moment you'll stop settling for less than what you deserve. You'll walk lighter, think clearer, live freer. You'll attract peace, alignment, and wholeness. You'll finally stop giving to everyone and start giving to the ones who give back. Not out of obligation, but out of overflow. That is when your life will shift. That is when your power will rise. That is when your real circle will emerge. Protect your energy, guard your time, be loyal to your purpose. There's a difference between being kind and being controlled, between having a good heart and letting people walk all over it. And too many people confuse people-pleasing with being a good person. But let me be clear, people-pleasing is not love, it's not kindness, it's fear. It's fear dressed up as politeness. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of not being liked, fear of someone being upset with you. So instead of standing tall in our truth, we shrink. We smile when we want to scream. We agree when we want to resist. We say yes when everything in us is crying out to say no. And we call that kindness. But it's not kindness. It's self-betrayal in disguise. People-pleasing is a subtle form of self-abandonment. It's a habit that says your comfort is more important than my truth. Your needs matter more than my peace. Your approval is worth more than my well-being. And when you live like that long enough, you start to forget who you are. You shape-shift to fit the expectations of others. You water down your personality. You become a version of yourself that feels safe to them, but suffocating to you. You were never meant to live that way. You weren't born to be everyone's favorite. You were born to walk in purpose, even if that means disappointing people along the way. At some point, you have to ask yourself, who am I living for? Because if you're constantly worried about what everyone else thinks, you'll never move forward. You'll be stuck in a cycle of approval addiction, checking, comparing, apologizing, over-explaining. And all of it keeps you from becoming who you're really meant to be. The truth is, you can't please everyone. And the harder you try, the more pieces of yourself you'll lose. You'll start trading authenticity for acceptance and peace for performance. But real freedom doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being whole. It comes from finally saying, I'm done trying to be what everyone else wants. You don't need to be agreeable to be a good person. You don't need to be available to everyone to be valuable. You don't have to prove your worth by always saying yes. Goodness isn't defined by how little of yourself you keep. It's not measured by how exhausted you are from helping everyone else. Real goodness is grounded in truth, in courage, in boundaries, in knowing when to say, this isn't mine to carry, in knowing that being honest about your limits is one of the kindest things you can do for yourself and for others. Because when you show up fake, you rob the world of your real gift. When you overextend, you show up half present. And when you live to please, you forget how to live at all. Boundaries are not barriers, they are bridges to peace. They are the invisible lines that say, this is where I end and you begin. They are the self-respect you put into action. They are not meant to punish others, they're meant to protect your soul. But if you've been raised to believe that your role is to keep everyone happy, boundaries feel like betrayal. You start to feel guilty for resting, ashamed for saying no, nervous about making people uncomfortable. But the truth is, boundaries don't push people away. They filter out those who were only there to use you, and they draw closer the ones who truly respect you. You're not here to keep the peace. You're here to live in peace. And those are two very different things. Keeping the peace means swallowing your pain, silencing your needs, avoiding conflict, just to keep the surface calm. Living in peace means facing the hard conversations, standing in your truth, and choosing honesty over harmony when necessary. You can be a good person and still disappoint people. You can be a kind person and still say no. You can love people deeply and still remove yourself from situations that dishonor your spirit. In fact, that is what mature love looks like. One of the hardest things to accept is that some people will be disappointed when you stop pleasing them. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you've changed. They'll accuse you of being difficult or cold. But that's not a reflection of your character. That's a reflection of their entitlement. People who truly love you won't be mad that you're setting boundaries. They'll be proud. Because healthy people honor limits. It's only those who benefited from your lack of boundaries who will resist them. And once you see that clearly, you start to heal. You start to rise. You start to remember that you are allowed to take up space. When you live to please others, you hand over your power. You let other people become the architects of your identity. But when you start living in truth, you take that power back. You begin to stand tall in your no. You begin to walk boldly in your yes. You begin to honor the voice inside of you that whispers, "This isn't for you," even when the world is shouting otherwise. That's not selfish, that's sacred. Because people-pleasing might keep you liked, but it will never keep you fulfilled. It might get you applause, but it won't bring you peace. And if you have to lose yourself to gain acceptance, it's not worth the price. There is no prize for being the most available, the most agreeable, the most accommodating. There's no trophy at the end of your life for how much of yourself you gave away to keep others comfortable. You don't win anything by playing small. You don't get to your purpose by being passive. The life you're called to live requires courage. It requires decisions that not everyone will understand. It requires moments of tension, seasons of pruning, and the strength to walk alone when necessary. But it's in that space, away from the noise of people's opinions, that you find your real power. You were not created to be everyone's answer. You are not required to fix everyone's problems. You are not the solution to everyone's dysfunction. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is let them figure it out without you. Sometimes loving someone means stepping back and letting them grow on their own. Because the more you keep rescuing people, the more you rob them of the lessons they need to evolve. And the more you stretch yourself to meet everyone's needs, the less you have to invest in your own growth. So it's time to let go of the need to be liked. It's time to stop shrinking to fit into people's expectations. It's time to start choosing you, not out of arrogance, but out of wisdom. Not because you don't care about others, but because you finally care about yourself. There is nothing selfish about honoring your peace. There is nothing wrong with protecting your energy. You are allowed to say, "This doesn't work for me anymore." You are allowed to walk away from toxic dynamics. You are allowed to choose rest over obligation, truth over performance, authenticity over approval. At the end of the day, your peace is your responsibility. Your joy is your responsibility, and your life is yours to live. Not to manage for others, not to constantly adjust for others, not to sacrifice for the sake of being liked. So stop people-pleasing, start soul-keeping. Start choosing the path that leads to peace, because when you stop living for others, you finally start living for real. You were not created to be everything for everyone. You were not placed on this earth to run yourself into the ground, exhausted and empty, all in the name of being helpful. There's a line between serving others and sacrificing yourself, and too many people have crossed it for far too long. Overextending yourself might look noble on the outside. You show up, you say yes, you carry the load, you solve problems, and you pour out again and again. People applaud you for being dependable. They admire your work ethic. They call you strong. But what they don't see is the internal collapse, the slow unraveling of your joy, the quiet erosion of your passion. What they don't see is the toll it takes on your soul when you're everything to everyone but nothing to yourself. When you constantly put others ahead of your own needs, you begin to lose the clarity of your own calling. You become so caught up in doing what's urgent for everyone else that you lose sight of what's important for you. Your purpose becomes buried under the pile of obligations you didn't say no to. You become so busy helping others build their dreams that you forget your own blueprint is gathering dust. Progress requires intention. Purpose demands boundaries. And you cannot fulfill what you were created to do if all your energy is being drained by things you were never meant to carry. It's not selfish to protect your purpose. It's sacred. You don't owe your time to everyone who asks for it. You don't owe your energy to every cause that crosses your path. There is a divine assignment on your life, and it requires fuel. It requires focus. And every time you overextend yourself for people who take more than they give, you are delaying what's meant for you. It's not that they're bad people. It's that you're mismanaging your priority. And the longer you live like that, the more you'll resent the very people you're trying to help. Not because they're doing anything wrong, but because deep down you know you've been neglecting yourself. Let's be honest, sometimes we overextend because we're addicted to being needed. We find our worth in being useful. We feel valuable when people depend on us. But that's a dangerous place to live, because the moment people stop needing you, you start questioning your value. That's not identity. And until you break that mindset, you'll keep saying yes to things that have nothing to do with your destiny. You'll keep filling your schedule and emptying your soul. Progress is not just about movement, it's about alignment. You can be busy and still be off course. You can be active and still be unproductive. And nothing will slow you down like obligations that don't belong to you. You weren't created to carry everyone's weight. You weren't designed to fix every crisis. Some of what you're carrying is not your calling, it's your inability to say no. And until you learn how to say no with confidence, you'll keep living under the pressure of people's expectations instead of the guidance of your purpose.